On a quiet night in August 1996, 14-year-old Caroline Glachan set out for a walk, unknowingly embarking on her final journey. The next morning, her lifeless body was discovered in the River Leven, sending shock waves through her peaceful Scottish town. Attention quickly turned to 4 teenagers, but they all had the same alibi, seemingly ruling them out. Then the case went cold for over 2 decades until a previously unheard witness account surfaced. What did this witness reveal that breathed new life into the investigation? Loving parents, William and Margaret Glachan welcomed Caroline into the world in Alexandria, Scotland. As an only child after 5 miscarriages, they loved her unconditionally. Caroline's early years were molded by her parents' consistent affection and support, establishing an encouraging and supportive atmosphere for her. In search of greater opportunities and a friendly neighborhood, the family moved to Bonhill, Scotland, an idyllic town renowned for its charming scenery and hospitable locals. While in Bonhill, Caroline grew up into a vibrant and optimistic young girl. She went to Dumbarton's Our Lady and St. Patrick's High School, where she was admired for her sociability, academic dedication, and excitement for recreational activities. Sadly, Caroline had to witness her parents' divorce at the age of 7. This was really painful for Caroline, as she had to live with her mother. Caroline was a 4th-year student in August 1996, navigating the trials and tribulations of puberty. She was 14, and like most girls of her age, she had hopes and plans for the future that seemed promising. On August 24, 1996, Caroline asked her best friend, Joanne Menzies, to come at her place and stay over for the night, while her mother was out having her 40th birthday celebration. Around 11:45 p.m., as they went for a stroll outside, walking past the Ladyton stores, when Caroline claimed that she was going to meet her boyfriend, Robert O'Brien, by the bridge. Joanne returned to Caroline's place, but she went nonetheless, even though her best friend had warned her not to go. Originally intended to be a brief meet-up typical of teenage romance, this date would unfortunately prove to be her last. Her route of choice brought her to the towpath bridge, a well-known shortcut she frequently used. The bridge was connected to the river towpath, which provided a more isolated yet shorter route. Caroline, tragically, never made it to her intended location. Her partially dressed body was found the following day in the River Leven near Renton by a passerby. That pleasant river was now the site of an awful occurrence. As the authorities looked into the details surrounding her death, it became evident that she had sustained serious injuries. She had suffered severe blunt force injuries to her scalp, face, and neck, rendering her unconscious. The devastating news of her demise shook the close-knit town, sending her family and friends into a state of depression and hopelessness. Authorities launched a desperate and in-depth investigation, hoping to solve the mystery surrounding that fatal night. Investigators scoured for evidence and asked the passers-by for information, changing the peaceful riverbanks and its serene pathways into intensely monitored areas. This incident took place on Caroline's mother's 40th birthday, with what should have been a day of joy and happiness turned into one of unfathomable sorrow, adding to the family's already profound misery. Caroline was unconscious when she was thrown into the river, according to a pathologist, who further determined that she had suffered severe head injuries. More investigation revealed that she had been brutally attacked by a group of teenagers who repeatedly punched and kicked her head and body. The names of the members of this group were publicly known within the community in 1996, but there wasn't sufficient proof to make an arrest or file charges against them. The main reason was their unwavering adherence to the same alibi, telling the police that they stayed the night at an apartment in Allen Crescent. Even though the attack was serious, drowning was found to be the primary cause of death. The untimely demise of an innocent little life like this devastated the whole town. The funeral for Caroline was held in Alexandria on February 26, 1997, and people came from all over the region to attend. Family, relatives, friends, and neighbors came together to offer their farewells and final respects. The memorial service served as a moving reminder of the young life that had been stolen so viciously, leaving an unfillable gap in its wake. The pain was evident, yet so was the drive to honor Caroline and demand justice for her tragic passing. Her case remained unresolved for years, even after a thorough investigation was conducted, leaving the town in a state of perpetual sorrow and ambiguity. A fresh hope for finding the answers did not surface until June 2019, when the major investigation team of Scotland Police revisited the cold case. As part of the renewed investigation, residents of Allen Crescent were re-interviewed. This is where Donna Brand, Andrew Kelly, Sarah Jane O'Neill, and Robert O'Brien all said to have spent the night of the incident. A crucial tip-off was provided by Linda Dorian, an upstairs neighbor, who said she'd seen 4 people along with 2 small children leave the residence. The group strolled along Allen Crescent, passed through Main Street, which connects Renton and Alexandria, and then headed towards the River Leven. This altered the timeline of events with important new details and refuted the previous accounts. Andrew and Sarah were babysitting 2 little boys that night, 4-year-old Archie Wilson and his younger brother Jamie. Afterwards, Robert O'Brien and his expectant girlfriend Donna joined them. Together the group, along with the kids, all departed from the apartment. When they returned well over an hour later, Linda overheard some noise of a dispute. One of them said something like, "That was not meant to happen. That went too far," she heard. "How is this going to look?" It implied that something critical had happened while they were away. This newly acquired information matched the story that 4-year-old Archie Wilson had told the day following Caroline's demise. Archie had informed his mother, Betty, that he was close to the river where he saw a fight, amidst which Caroline fell into the river. His words at the time sounded confused and hard to follow up on. They believed Archie had caught up on the rumors that were circulating after Caroline's body was discovered. Nevertheless, Archie's innocuous remarks turned into a significant piece of evidence when the neighbor provided corroborated testimony. Caroline's case was given new life and optimism by the reinvestigation. The goal of the painstaking investigation by the authorities was to provide Caroline with justice and comfort her bereaved family, as well as the community. In the prolonged search for answers surrounding the tragically violent demise of a young girl whose life was deliberately cut short, this new information represented a major advancement. 3 people, 45-year-old Robert O'Brien, 44-year-old Andrew Kelly, and 44-year-old Donna Marie Brand, were charged for the crime in November 2021. The 4th person involved in the case, Sarah Jane O'Neill, had died before she could face charges. The trial began in November 2023 at Glasgow's High Court, garnering a lot of attention while reopening old scars for Caroline's family members, as well as the community. After witnessing what happened, Archie was never the same. Having reached his early 30s, he was declared ineligible to testify in court. In court, 42 years old Joanne Menzies, who was once Caroline's childhood friend, testified that she had witnessed O'Brien threaten her and even bully her on multiple occasions. O'Brien, Kelly, and Brand were convicted on December 14, 2023, for taking Caroline's life. The Glasgow High Court handed down the verdict. bringing an end to a case that has plagued the detectives and the community for many years. Notably, the 3 people found guilty were all teenagers when the crimes were committed. Why wasn't this evidence obtained in 1996? The public questioned. Detective Inspector Granger stated it looked like the right questions were not asked at all. Another challenge, according to him, was the prevalence of illegal drugs in Renton and the surrounding area in the late 1990s, and the fact that a number of possible witnesses were themselves lawbreakers leading chaotic lives. All of Caroline's teenage attackers were drug addicts who used shoplifting as a means to fuel their addictions. The sentencing process concluded in January 2024, bringing a sense of resolution. Lord Braid delivered the final sentence, saying, "You have taken a daughter from a loving mother." Mrs. McEachern spoke of the anguish caused by Caroline's demise and the emptiness it has left behind. She will never get to witness Caroline as the woman she could have been. No sentence that I pass could possibly make up for what she has lost. Kelly and O'Brien were both given life sentences. O'Brien was sentenced to a minimum of 22 years in prison before being eligible for release. O'Brien had a child with Brand in the years that followed the crime, and he was imprisoned for serious assault and attempted slaying. Since he was the one who attacked Caroline, he was the primary assailant in this case. Kelly was expected to serve at least 18 years. Brand was deemed unfit to appear in court and only received a sentence to a minimum of 17 years in prison through video call on April 22nd. For Caroline's friends and family, especially her mother, Margaret McEachern, the sentencing was an important milestone in the case. She said, "This is the day that I have been waiting for 27 years. It's justice for Caroline," she continued, "but it won't bring her back. Justice has undoubtedly been served. However, I'm not sure if closure is the appropriate word to use." The conclusion of a case that had had a lasting impact on the Bonhill community, which was still grieving from the tragedy, brought some comfort to them. The convictions and sentencing acted as a reminder of the commitment and tenacity of the police in pursuing justice, regardless of the passage of time. This resolution honors Caroline's memory and emphasizes the unwavering pursuit of justice, even though the sadness of her loss never goes away. Following the sentencing, O'Brien and Kelly both expressed their intention to file an appeal against their convictions and life sentences. In the dead of night, a 14-year-old girl sneaked out with an adult man to a well-known lover's lane. What brings them together and drives them to such a place? As the darkness surrounds them, what unimaginable fate awaits? The answers to these haunting questions reveal a twisted tale that spirals into something even more disturbing. On Monday, September 21, 1987, an abandoned black Ford pickup truck was discovered at the parking lot of the Ragged Island Wildlife Management Area. The driver's side door was unlocked. The window was partially rolled down. The wipers were running, and the radio was still playing. Inside the vehicle, a wallet was discovered which listed David Knobling, a 20-year-old man. Further evidence included a pair of women's undergarments and shoes, suggesting that David was not alone. Authorities scoured through the crime scene meticulously but found nothing else. Consequently, the automobile was hauled away. Following a couple of days, on September 23, 1987, a jogger was met with two bodies that were washed up along the bank of the James River in Isle of Wight County. The deceased individuals were Robin Edwards, age 14, and David Knobling, age 20. Both had sustained gunshot wounds to the head, and Robin showed signs indicative of a sexual assault. The day David's automobile was discovered, September 19th, was the last day the two had been spotted. according to information provided to the investigators. Earlier that day, Robin had met with David at an arcade, and later that evening, she had secretly gone to watch a film with him and a few of his buddies. Given that David's vehicle was found at a location that was popular among couples, it is possible that Robin and David were romantically involved. Moreover, David's window was rolled down halfway, which led the detectives to surmise that the person who took their life could possibly have been impersonating as a law enforcement officer. Unfortunately, the car had been hauled away, affecting every possible evidence, making it challenging to find more answers. At first, the authorities believed that the double homicide was related to the cases of Kathy Thomas and Rebecca Dowski, who were the victims in the now-known Colonial Parkway slayings. Located in southeast Virginia, the Colonial Parkway is a stunning route that winds through the Colonial National Historical Park. With fewer entrances and exits and bordered by trees, the area offered a secluded and peaceful environment that was the backdrop for the slayings that occurred there between 1986 and 1989. Whilst David and Robin had not been slain at the Colonial Parkway, both sets of victims were couples who lost their lives at or around Lover's Lane areas. Police hypothesized a connection between the two cases, considering both the places were barely a 30-minute drive apart, and the motive behind for neither of the crime was robbery. Nevertheless, detectives noticed a few things that stuck out, like how the couple was killed elsewhere after being forced out of the car, and how the car was just abandoned there, as it was obvious that somebody would have soon noticed it and notified the police. However, these strange factors were not explicated by any evidence, and the case remained cold for decades due to the limited amount of additional information that was uncovered. After 2 years, around 15 miles away from the crime scenes of David and Robin, a new body was discovered. Teresa Lynn Spaw Howell, age 29, was last seen in Hampton, Virginia, at roughly 2:30 in the morning on July 1st, 1989, outside a renowned nightclub named Zodiac Club on Mercury Boulevard. Later that morning, construction workers on Butler Farm Road were led a trail of females' clothing to Teresa's lifeless body close to a wood line. Like Robin, she had been sexually assaulted and had died from strangulation. But at the time, authorities were unaware of the connection between the two cases. For many years, David and Robin's case was regarded to be part of the Colonial Parkway slayings, due to the similarities between their death patterns and that of other couples in the vicinity, such as the 1988 slaying of Cassandra Haley and Richard Call. Recently, this was changed when the DNA evidence from the case of David and Robin was used to identify their assailant, who happened to be Teresa's killer as well. Authorities announced in early January 2024 that the perpetrator was Alan Wilmer Sr., a 63-year-old local fisherman from Lancaster County, but he had passed away in 2017. Although Wilmer's DNA was discovered at both crime scenes, his lack of a criminal record made it initially difficult to identify him. But once it was in the system, this DNA sample did more than just help find his family and notify them of his passing. It also produced a match to 3 unsolved homicides in the region. Known by his nickname Pokey, Wilmer was 5 feet 5 inches tall, 165 pounds in weight, had blue eyes, sandy brown hair, and a close-cropped beard. He was the owner of a small commercial fishing vessel called as the Denny Wade, which he used to dock at marinas Gloucester and Middlesex counties, and across the Northern Neck. In the 1980s, he mainly worked as a fisherman who farmed oysters and clams. Wilmer also ran a tree service business named Better Tree Service, and was a skillful hunter who frequently participated in local hunt clubs. His truck was a 1966 Dodge Fargo, uniquely blue, registered in Virginia with the license plate EM Raw. Since the investigation is still ongoing and hoping to connect Wilmer to other unresolved cases, authorities have not released any more material that connects him to the slayings of David, Robin, and Teresa. According to them, there was sufficient evidence to charge him with all 3 homicides, had he been alive. The identification did, however, validate that David and Robin's case had no connection with the Colonial Parkway slayings, which are still being investigated. That perpetrator is still being sought after by the authorities. If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.